Good evening, everyone, or good morning or good afternoon, wherever it is that you're dialing from today. Thank you so much for joining me. To begin with, let me introduce myself. So my name is Mandeep Mahal, and I'm one of the MBA recruitment and admissions managers in the MBA recruitment team. I'm really delighted to be here today to speak about the Laidlaw Scholarship. And in today's session, I'm going to give you some information on the Laidlaw Scholarship, how to apply, and the opportunity it brings. But I'd say sort of most importantly and probably most exciting part of the session is that you're going to hear from some of our scholars. So I am lucky enough to be joined today by some alumni and by some current students, and I'll be joined by Shruti, Patricia, Soraya, and Tracy shortly. And this is a great opportunity to hear from them, hear about their experiences of the MBA and being a Laidlaw scholar, and also the opportunity for you to ask them questions as well. And in fact, I'd say please do go ahead and start submitting any questions that you do have for our panel in the Q&A box, and we can get to those later. And also feel free to say hi in the chat box and let us know where it is that you're dialing in from today. And then also I just want to point out that the session will be recorded as well, so we will be following up with the recording. Okay, so I'd say to get us started then, so you can see this quote on the screen from the CEO of the Laidlaw Foundation. And I think what's really important to take from this quote is the extraordinary woman, but then also who would not otherwise be able to afford an MBA. So I would say on the MBA, of course, we are looking for exceptional talent. We're looking at merit-based achievements. We're looking at those who want to lead in a responsible way and ask some of those big questions. We do have a slight focus on impact on the MBA and really thinking about that intersection between business and society. But I'd say what's really great about the Laidlaw Scholarship, that is also focused on those who would not otherwise be able to afford an MBA. We, of course, know that MBAs are an expensive investment, and it's great to have a scholarship that not only looks at merit-based academic achievements, but also for those who could not afford to do this otherwise. And I'd say that's a big element of the Laidlaw Foundation. So Laidlaw are looking to advance younger girls and women. And in fact, I'd encourage you all to have a look at their website. They do have some great sort of information on there, some great resources. I'd say they're not only working with sort of business schools and MBAs, but also younger girls at school and college level. Now, I would say here at Oxford on the MBA, we are one of the most gender balanced cohorts on the MBA. Our class this year is 48% female. And actually, we did hit gender parity last year. It was 51%. So it was actually the first time that females outnumbered the males. And we've been doing a lot of work to get there over the last few years in terms of sort of hitting gender parity or being sort of quite close. And I know sort of working with the Laidlaw Foundation, having these amazing sort of scholarships has really attributed to that. Now, I'd say Lord Laidlaw, describes his mission, and what drove him to start this scholarship was that he worked with a lot of women in leadership positions in his organisations. And he saw the success of these organisations that had gender balance. And I'd say we know that there is a lot of research and reports that organisations who have that balance do better. And I'll say that really is at the root of that. And it's not about checking a box and having parity to reach sort of a particular sort of metric, statistic. This is about women going into those leadership positions, the opportunity this affords to women who might have not otherwise applied or considered an MBA. So they're able to go ahead and reach that higher level of leadership and those high level roles that they want to get towards. The scholarship has been running with other schools globally for 5 years. So there is a considerable network of other Laidlaw scholars from other business schools globally. So I know actually LBS does offer the Laidlaw Scholarship, and also I believe sort of IE and HEC as well are also part of the Laidlaw network. And in fact, there is the opportunity to think about sort of expanding your network further, and there is opportunities within that Laidlaw network, which we'll get onto in a moment. And then also, so this picture is our current scholars at the Scholars Breakfast that we do host at the start of the academic year. So there's many sort of exclusive events that are available to Laidlaw scholars. And in fact, we can see sort of Soraya and Tracy in that picture as well. So we'll get to hear from them in a moment. Okay, so if we get into the details of the Laidlaw Scholarship, so there are 10 awards. We have 8 full awards and 2 half awards. So they do range from sort of partial to full scholarships. Of course, full awards are covering the full tuition fee for the year that you are applying to. And the criteria of the scholarship is made up of different parts that you're being assessed on in different elements and different parts by the scholarship committee. So I suppose it goes without saying that we are looking for academic excellence. It is the University of Oxford that you are applying to. So we are looking for that in your MBA application. So we are going to be looking at your academic history, looking at your bachelor's degree. We will be looking at your GMAT or your GRE. I think for this session, we won't be going into full details of the application requirements for the MBA. And in fact, if there are any questions, sorry, about the application requirements, I'm happy to take those at a later stage, or I'd recommend sort of going onto our website and having a look at the looking at the FAQs. What I will say is that we do look at applications holistically. So you can certainly look to balance your profile. And in fact, those 2 criteria that have just been mentioned, so bachelor's degree, GMAT or GRE, I'd say that we don't have hard requirements. We advise on what is competitive, but there is a balance. So if you're dialing in today and let's say one aspect of your profile, maybe it's your bachelor's degree, if you feel that's maybe not as competitive, you can certainly look to balance that with a GMAT or a GRE score, and vice versa. But I'd say you can also show excellence through previous university awards, prizes, and also other degrees beyond your bachelor's as well. So we do see some students coming in with other master's degrees as well. So demonstrating that financial need, and there is some detailed guidance available when you're applying to the scholarship. And we are asking you to complete some information about your household income. And that's people that you're living with, people in your household that have a part in your outgoings. We are asking you about your financial responsibility and if you have any dependents. And I would say this isn't sort of dependence just in, let's say, children. It could be parents or a sibling. I'd say any financial responsibility that you do have. And then finally, we are asking you to demonstrate leadership potential, commitment to gender equality and leading ethically. The scholarship application will ask you what it is that you have done or currently doing to support women and gender equality in your career. And also, as a Laidlaw scholar, how do you plan to support women and develop female leaders? I would say that the committee are really looking for people who have already made steps to support women previously and want to contribute and expand on this work. So we are looking for people who can clearly demonstrate what it is that they're doing in this space. And then also, I'd say something new for this year as well. So with the scholarship, it does come with college membership at Reuben. So as a Laidlaw scholar, you will have membership at Reuben, and you are also expected to take on an active role. And I believe that you will be assigned a dedicated fellow or tutor. And then also as a scholar, you will be encouraged to take part in Reuben entrepreneurship events and startup competitions. Okay, so in terms of how to apply, so some things to really be mindful of is that you need to submit both your MBA application and your scholarship application at the same time. So in terms of, I'm not sure if there's anyone, in fact, I expect there's many people dialing in today who are considering an application for September 2025. And in fact, our stage 4 deadline is fast approaching. It falls on the 6th of January. And this is also the scholarship deadline as well. So if you're dialing in today and you're considering sort of applying for the MBA, you need to ensure that you're submitting your MBA application and your scholarship application at the same time. That's really important. So let's give an example. If you were to, let's say, submit your MBA application sort of in the next few days, but then you thought, well, I've got until the 6th of January to submit the scholarship application, I'm afraid you won't be eligible. Those applications do need to come together. So want to make that known. And I have seen sometimes some candidates unfortunately been sort of caught out by that. Applications for the scholarship will be reviewed after each stage, and candidates will be informed at each application stage if they've been successful in being shortlisted. And then final shortlisting will take place in March. And then there is also an interview process as well, which is expected to take place in April or May. There is an email address on the slide. So this does sit with our funding team, and they are able to answer any sort of questions that you might have about the scholarship sort of process in terms of the application process for the Laidlaw Scholarship. So if there's any sort of particular questions that you may have about the essay questions for the scholarship application, or in terms of some of the information that is being asked for in terms of that sort of financial history information, you can look to get in touch with that email address. And then in terms of some of those opportunities that the scholarship brings, so it is a growing network, and there is a network of other Laidlaw scholars from other schools. So I've mentioned London Business School, and then I also know HEC and IE are also part of this network. I'll say it's a lifelong network, and it is not just sort of globally, but also across industries. There are sort of many sort of events that do take place. We have sort of scholar sort of breakfasts that take place. There's afternoon teas. The scholarship, there's an annual dinner with representatives of the Laidlaw Foundation, side faculty and previous scholars. I'd say the scholarship does offer a very sort of comprehensive sort of scholar programming where participants get to engage in, I'd say, a variety of impactful activities. Our scholars do also receive sort of priority access to some like high profile events focused on female empowerment, and participate in sort of careers workshops and networking sessions organised by the Laidlaw Foundation. So in fact, in some of those high profile sort of events, I believe that a couple of students from this year actually did get to attend the Women of the Future Awards that took place in London. So there are sort of some really sort of great opportunities that our Laidlaw scholars do get access to. And we'll also get to hear from some of these events and activities in a moment from our panel. Okay, and then I say just before we do get into the panel discussion, I just wanted to show this video that we created, which was actually with our inaugural scholars. So we are currently heading into I believe it's our 5th year now with Laidlaw, and we're creating a really nice community. And I'd say our scholars are amazing. They have so many different backgrounds, really sort of demonstrating how they're making impact in so many different ways, coming from all across the globe, and they have different stories to tell. And I'll say this video is just a small snippet of that.
I've always known that I wanted to study at Oxford, but it just felt like one of those far-fetched dreams that you have at the back of your mind that like would never come true.
I'm a single mom and I was working 2 jobs. Life was really, really full on. How am I going to move countries? How am I going to manage a full-time MBA?
I saw that there was a new scholarship being launched specifically for women leaders. The description was you need to have a passion to empower women and have a dream to perhaps become an executive somewhere. And I was like, that sounds like me.
The Laidlaw Scholarship is its empowerment, right? Scholarship empowers women like me who ordinarily couldn't have afforded an education like this one to help us come here and achieve every dream you have in your mind that you thought was impossible. Without these types of opportunities, and the opportunities to not have to worry about funding and focus on your education, I wouldn't be here.
It really gave me like network seems like the wrong term, like really like a sisterhood of women.
50% of the world is female. And if men
continue to occupy positions of power and making decisions on behalf of women, we will never reach a society where problems are solved properly.
You need more women at the top, right? And the truth is, there's certain things that help you rise to the top. And one of that, honestly, is a business degree like this one.
The Oxford MBA actually has one of the highest women participation rates of all MBAs. And I think the scholarship helps to do that.
Recently, Laidlaw launched a fund for the scholars. It's a £50 million fund, and it invests in businesses started by the scholars.
I think that is amazing because across the globe, women struggle to get funding from banks for business ventures they'd want to start.
The MBA here is the perfect combination of business and impact. It doesn't talk about business in isolation. It talks about how it has a bigger role to play in society.
Being able to represent myself, my family, my country, my continent, and help other people come up and do the same thing. And that is really the essence of the scholarship, to make people know that they can do things like this, because they've seen people like me.
The first thing that we usually do is disqualify ourselves because we think, oh my gosh, it's Oxford, I will never make it in there. Try it, apply, take a leap of faith.
Imposter syndrome is something that affects a lot of people, but I would say that, believe in yourself, go for it, and just put your best foot forward.
So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour for the Laidlaw Scholarship. So I'd say we're at the most sort of exciting part of the session now. So if I could ask our panelists to switch their cameras on, and what we can do is we can start with some introductions. I think sadly we're not able to be joined by Patricia. I think
Mandeep, just to clarify, I think she wants to join. She's lost her link.
Okay, let me see. What I'll do is I will send over that link to her again. But then in the meantime, actually, if we can just start with some introductions. So maybe we can start with you, Shruti. So if you could just let the audience know, well, your name, what year it was that you graduated, and what it is that you're doing now.
Hi everyone, so good to have you here. The Laidlaw Scholarship was a milestone opportunity for me in my life and career. So very, very grateful to be here. I'm from Delhi, India. I graduated in 2023, so I got the scholarship in 2022. And before the MBA, I worked as a social impact entrepreneur. I ran a sustainable foods e-commerce marketplace in India, sold the startup, did the MBA, then was involved with a bunch of ventures after my MBA, and currently freelancing as a sustainability consultant while also exploring venture ideas. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Shruti. And then if we come over to you, Tracy.
Yes, so my name is Tracy. I am so happy to be here, and I wanted to welcome everybody who is here today. This is a really surreal moment for me because last year I was where you all are sitting, listening to the panel, like seriously taking notes, trying to figure out like how am I going to put my application together. And so like I'm getting goosebumps because I'm like sitting here and talking to you all about this. My background, I'm a current MBA student right now. My background is in medicine. So I'm currently a fourth year medical student. I'm doing a gap year. So doing my MBA this year, and then next year I return back to medical school.
Great, thank you. And then Soraya, will come over to you.
Hi everyone, really great to be here. Just to echo what Tracy said, I was on this call as well, same time last year, and I remember asking a question that I felt was not answered. I put through my application anyway, so I'll make it a point to answer any questions that I can today. I'm a mother of three, currently doing the MBA. Prior to the MBA, I was an entrepreneur, then co-founded an impact investing firm, investing in West and Central Africa with Agenda Lens. I intend to continue with this post the MBA. And I just have to say, this is an incredible opportunity. Even the MBA application process for me was so revealing in the sense that I never felt like I had to put so much of myself out there until I started to write an application to Oxford. I remember saying, and this is not advice, don't take it from me, apply to as many schools as possible. But I couldn't bring myself to apply to another school because of how emotional that application process was for me. It brought everything out of me that I had kept very close to my heart. And I just think you should enjoy the process, the entire Oxford application, getting into Oxford, coming to the school process is such an incredible journey and an experience that is very fulfilling. So yeah, thank you for having us here, Mandy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Soraya. And yes, I was just speaking to sort of Tracy just before we started the session. So I know Tracy spoke that she was on the session sort of last year. So it was actually a nice sort of full circle moment. And I think it's a really nice sort of community that we do have. And we always see sort of our community looking to give back. So yes, well, thank you all. Okay, well, please do any questions that you do have for our panelists, and we'll try and get to them all. But I have a couple of questions just as well for the panel, just to get the conversation sort of started. So a big part of the scholarship application and the criteria, is the commitment to gender equality, so leading ethically and paying that forward. So how did you demonstrate that in your Laidlaw application? And in fact, maybe if we come to Soraya and Tracy first, maybe it's still slightly fresh in your mind, sort of having maybe applied, it might have been sort of around this time last year. So in fact, if we come to you, Tracy, first, if you want to start us off.
Sure, I'm happy to. So what I wrote about, I was a little bit nervous about this part, to be honest, because I felt that when I looked at the profiles of like all the people who had gotten the scholarship, I felt like, wow, they're making like such a huge impact, like starting companies, affecting 100,000 people. And I didn't feel that I had that, honestly. But something a panelist said last year that really helped me was that you don't have to impact 100,000 people. You can impact one person, and that's still really meaningful, and that's still something you can write about. So what I wrote about was my experience volunteering as an AmeriCorps member for victims of domestic violence. So I did that for 2 years, and I worked with different people, and I kind of like shared a story of one person and how it impacted me. And then I also talked about how after that, I was really motivated to see women be empowered and be financially autonomous, like have the ability to financially provide for themselves. So I took an MBA course at the school on negotiations. And after that, I spent a lot of time talking to my friends and female individuals about the need to negotiate for your salary when you're applying for jobs. And so I just had a lot of people kind of contact me after that. And I just wrote about how that was really empowering for me to like be in that role.
Great, thank you. And then Soraya, in fact, I really liked how you mentioned in terms of, because I'd say the application, in fact, the MBA application and the scholarship application, it's a very sort of reflective piece. And in fact, you touched on that actually just in your introduction. So how did you go about sort of tackling your scholarship application?
I think for my scholarship application, the Laidlaw question went straight into my heart, I have to be honest. It was something that was hard for me to put in 2 pages. And I guess one of the things that I wondered, if you see like the first draft of my application, it had an extra page of evidences of what I had actually done, because a part of me did not believe I was going to be given a scholarship because of what I said. I kind of felt like I had to show evidence that I actually did those things. And I went around looking for panels that I hosted with women or sessions that I had on behalf of women. And I had an entire page of evidences until a friend told me, you know what, I don't think you need to submit those evidences. I think they just wanted to see the essay. So if you're like me thinking you need to submit evidences, definitely not. This is something that they're looking to see come from your heart, really. on how you think about female empowerment, how you think about women actually being empowered in your community. And I come from a really conservative community. So I grew up a very angry child on what happens to women around me, women in my family. And I think for me, even putting those into coherent sentences and words were quite difficult because of how much the application process actually goes in to ask you about those things. But what I would say is maybe jot down a few thoughts, right? Try not to be too emotional. I'm quite an emotional person, as you can probably tell. So try not to be too emotional. Find the balance between stating the facts and showing your passion on, empowering women and seeing women actually excel. I had quite a lot of evidently. So I wouldn't say I struggled as much with evidences, but what I would say is I also took something from the last session when somebody said, even if it's a single woman that you've had impact on, then definitely state it. So there isn't like a right or wrong approach, whether you've been heavily involved in helping women or whether you've helped your sister or, somebody that is not even a part of your family within your journey. I think you should definitely be honest and put yourself out there. And your vision also matters. So sorry, I just have to hammer a little bit on that. The vision that you have for women, apart from what you're doing now, is really an incredible thing for you to say within the application, not just what you've done in the past.
Great, thank you. And then Shruti, I'm not sure if there's anything that you would like to add. I know in terms of, well, your application was probably a good sort of few years back now, but I know that you're constantly sort of speaking to candidates when it comes to the scholarship, giving advice. So how did you sort of go about demonstrating that sort of gender sort of equality in your application?
So there were two parts that I focused on in the application for this particular lens. One, my own role as a woman in the sector, the space that I am creating. So I started my entrepreneurial career in hydroponics, which was back then a very niche field. It still is right now. And then as a e-commerce marketplace founder. So how am I claiming my space in this growing field, and how am I paving the path for future women leaders in this space? That was part one. And the second was within my work, within my own company, and within my external stakeholders, how am I creating better livelihoods for women? So I'm not here to say that you need these check marks in your essay for it to make sense. As Soraya said, even if you can show that you're paving a path, that's also good enough. Like, I think the main part is that be true to your own story. But as when I saw my path, I said, okay, these are the three different ways that I can talk about things. And very interestingly, the part that I focused the most on was how my work was impacting external stakeholders, which is women micro farmers, and how we were helping them become micro entrepreneurs in their own communities. So I sort of took a factual approach to this lens, but every time I would state something in terms of impact or learning, I ensured that my motivation or drive behind why or what was also shining through. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Great, thank you. And then I suppose in terms of the next part, so you've worked on your Laidlaw Scholarship application you've submitted, and then so there is a shortlisting process. And in fact, I can see sort of there's just a couple of questions just around sort of the decision sort of process. So with the Laidlaw scholarships, in fact, I can see a question, someone who's applied in stage 3. So so if you've applied in stage 3, then in fact, offers have been made for stage 3. So I'm assuming that you have been successful in securing an offer. So congratulations to that person who's just put that message in the chat. So I expect in terms of shortlisting decisions, I believe that the committee will be making shortlisting decisions in sort of January. So you'll expect to find out if you are on the shortlist. And what the committee do is after each application stage, they do review applications. So you'll know if you're still sort of in the running in the shortlist. And then final shortlisting does take place in March, and then there is an interview process which is expected to take place around April, sort of May time. So I hope that covers some of those questions and that's sort of clear on the process about that. But in terms of, so there is an interview process. So it'll be great to hear just how you all sort of tackled that interview process. So, I mean, it was great news getting sort of shortlisted for an interview. So how did you find your interview for the Laidlaw Scholarship? And then we can come to you, Shariti. Actually, I can see you've just come off, or you just came off mute. So.
Okay. I think for the interview process for me was fairly straightforward. So at that time, I was preparing for both my school and Laidlaw interviews, and they were going on in parallel. I think for Laidlaw, because back when I applied, it was a fairly new program at Said, and I wanted to understand more about what is the program looking for. So I spoke to as many scholars that I can get my hands on. So I spoke to anyone and everyone from the previous batch at Said, LBS, etc., and realized that the community is very, very helpful. And so I think now in my head, it's clear it's two things that you just want to anchor your stories towards: your need and your merit. Merit being, in my opinion, a little more important, because I think you demonstrate your need in the essay, and it's, in my experience, more or less limited to that. So since Laidlaw is investing in you as a candidate and as a future leader, all your stories in terms of your career, your different experiences, why you did that, how have you charted your path, how does the MBA and the Laidlaw fit into this journey, what are your dreams and visions and goals. I think all of that for me was anchored around, okay, how do I prove and demonstrate my merit, and the fact that I belong to this community, please invest in me. So there were a bunch of questions that I was able to collate, and a bunch of questions that people helped me. So I took a lot of interview, like mock interview support from friends and family. And I think for me, the Laidlaw interview, the experience was very nice. There were a bunch of people on the panel. Mandeep was there. I think my overall experience was they asked me about my story, essentially, right? And there were many levers in that whole time that I could use to direct the narrative towards where I would want the panel to know more about me. So I think, yeah, it was pretty straightforward, very simple. Just know your story, be true to yourself, and the interview will be a piece of cake.
Thank you. And Soraya, how did you go about in terms of your interview then for the Laidlaw Scholarship?
Yeah, I think very similar to Shruti. It was a panel. When I saw like 6 people, I was like, damn, that's scary. But yeah, it was a panel with the MBA director, Amy, leading the interview. I think let me go back to like preparing for the interview. I went through the Laidlaw website. I just looked at exactly what they were looking for in a female candidate, but also what is the profile of other Laidlaw scholars. And I think one thing that really stood out for me is they're not just looking for women that have had impact on other women right now, but they're looking for women that could potentially become leaders and lead with a gender lens or gender equality in their future endeavors. So I think for me, that had to come through in everything that I was presenting to the interview panel. So what I would say is really sort of practicing before the interview. Definitely don't go into it unprepared, and ensuring that you tailor your answers to what actually the Laidlaw Scholarship is looking for. As much as they're gonna like you as a person, they also have a checklist which involves getting candidates that fit into that, and of course be genuine in expressing how you fit into that. But if you go in touching many different areas that might not necessarily add to your credibility or your merit of the scholarship, then that could be a bit maybe time wasting as well. So really important to nail down how you fit in as a Laidlaw scholar. But also one of the things that attracted me to Laidlaw was the fact that they wanted to develop female leaders. And I think that's really essential in the sense that if you're an aspiring female leader, you want to be amongst other women that are also aspiring female leaders and think in a similar way with you. So that's also something to actually like highlight, because the community that Laidlaw provides you with, even within Inside Business School, but also within sort of the wider Laidlaw network, is quite essential to your journey as a female leader. So that's really something to mention. The last thing I would say is think about what you're bringing to the table. I know we always think scholarships is, they're awarding it to us, but at the end of the day, they want to bring in people that also have value to add to the community, but also value to add to other scholars. So really think deeply about what you could bring to the table and what value you could add to the whole scholar community as well.
That's great. Thank you, Soraya. And then I suppose just Tracy, if there's any tips that you have for candidates in terms of if they get through to that interview, what tips would you give them?
So I pretty much did what Shruti and Soraya did, but one thing that was really helpful was on the Laidlaw on the Laidlaw website, there's a scholars network, and with the scholars network, you can find a lot of scholars profiles. It's like a scholar spotlight, and so I went through all the spotlights, reading like stories of different scholars, and they answer a lot of questions. And so from there, I try to figure out, one, how am I similar to these scholars? And then two, how am I unique? Like, how am I going to be different when I come to this interview to show my value? So that was really helpful. And then I did a mock interview with one of my friends. And honestly, like, mock interviews are always so just cringe because you hear yourself and you're like, oh, what am I saying? But that's the point of having a mock interview, because you kind of refine what you say. And then after that, I feel like the actual interview itself, the panelists they're really all very kind. They want to get to know who you are as a person, and they want to know just like your story. How did you get here? What brings you here? Why do you want to be here? And then what are you going to bring to the next stage? So just be able to like answer those questions.
Great, thank you. Yes, some good tips. And also, yes, a good sort of tip on going on to the Laidlaw Laidlaw website as well. So yes, I know that they do have a spotlight, which I think it's really sort of updated and added to regularly. So you've got the opportunity to really sort of see some of the scholars that are part of the Laidlaw sort of community and network. So yes, good tip. And I suppose that kind of leads us on nicely in terms of thinking about the benefits of being a Laidlaw scholar at Oxford. So in fact, Shruti, seeing that you've graduated, could you sort of talk through some of the benefits that you found of being a Laidlaw scholar at Inside Business School on the Oxford MBA?
So first I'll generalize this and say that, any sort of a community like this gives you handover benefits that a 1-year MBA program can't. Because in a 1-year MBA program, there's no handover between the previous batch and the succeeding batch, right? But when it's a community like this, then you get benefits of not just interacting and learning from, but actually feeling like a sense of camaraderie, right? That you can depend on these people, you can reach out to them formally and informally for advice, synergies, work, etc., etc. So even before I joined the MBA program, I got a ton of advice, and just just knowing that, okay, when I'm going to land in Oxford, I have a bunch of people there whom I know, who are already my friends, right, from the preceding batch. And now that I'm based in London and I work here, my community is bigger than that of my MBA classmates, because I have people from Skoll and Laidlaw here that keep doing things. So keep doing dinners, lunches, meetups, just sharing opportunities with each other on WhatsApp, etc. It's a bunch of different things. So even just today, I was speaking to someone from the previous batch. No, from the next batch is me. And she's in Indonesia building a startup right now, and was thinking of approaching Laidlaw for the Laidlaw Scholars Ventures. So it's a small VC fund that invests in startups if you're a Laidlaw community founder. So essentially, yeah, it's a bunch of things. But for me, someone who had never stayed away from family and never ventured out of my country for 29 years of my life, embarking on this 1-year journey to Oxford was a big step. But because of the Laidlaw and Skoll communities, I never felt like, it was too much, too new, or too overwhelming for me. So that was one. Second, within the Laidlaw community, I would say that it's a spectacular group of women doing amazing things all over the world. And it's just, sometimes just having that one common connect with someone opens so many doors for you that you would never have dreamt of. So just having that, oh, I'm a Laidlaw scholar and Soraya is a Laidlaw scholar, and now we know each other from this webinar. That's it. You're a part of a community, and that community is a high potential growing community that is going to last forever. So it's an added badge on top of your MBA. I think that's very, very powerful.
Great. Thank you, Shariti. And then I suppose coming to maybe Soraya and Tracy. So actually maybe we come to you, Soraya, first. And I know that, you started the program in September. In fact, you've just finished so I know that you've broken up for your first term. But maybe you could just speak a little bit in terms of how you've benefited from the scholar sort of community within those first sort of few months.
I think definitely starting with being a part of Ruben, and I know there is like a college thing here in Oxford where you're expected to be part of the older colleges, and I'm part of the newest college, which has a collaboration with Laidlaw. I think it's incredible because Ruben is a growing college, and what it means for something to be new and growing is it's very nimble and flexible. So for example, we're currently planning to host an event in collaboration with Ruben, bring in a couple of speakers from Africa, and that wouldn't have happened if it was like a really old college, because they have very archaic traditions and ways of doing things. So I think being a part of Ruben has really been incredible. I've found myself being a part of like a small family that shares sort of similar ethics and principles with me. But also meeting Tracy and the rest of the Laidlaw women who are also incredibly well accomplished, are incredibly ambitious and amazing. I think that's something that I don't take for granted. But also the actual Laidlaw community, so the people that are supporting us within Laidlaw, from Stana to Eleanor, like those are really amazing women as well. They give us a shout out whenever we do something great. There's a very supportive WhatsApp group of people that lift other Laidlaw women, up when something happens. And I think that's something that, is really great to have in addition to studying the MBA. Finally, I will talk about Laidlaw Foundation as a whole. Like they have a Laidlaw Ventures thing, which I never even thought was something that we could leverage. I just took a call with Laidlaw Ventures, and now they're advising me on my fund. They're helping me build that stuff. And that's something I never expected to get as like an additional benefit of the MBA, and I'm getting it through the Laidlaw Foundation. So I think there is endless amounts of benefits that you can get depending on how deep you're willing to go and utilizing the resources that the Laidlaw Foundation and the MBA present you with.
Great, thank you, Soraya. And then actually, so Tracy, what are some of the things that you've liked about being at Reuben? So I know with Reuben College, so actually you're the first sort of inaugural sort of cohort that are members at Reuben College. So yes, what are some of the things that you've liked at being at Reuben?
That's a good question. So we had our assessments last week, and I found out that Reuben is open 24 hours. And I found that out because I stayed there 24 hours to do my don't do what I did. You start your assignments early, but I stayed 24 hours in the facilities, and the porters were just the nicest people. They would check on me. They'd be like, "Are you okay?" One person took me to the library, and this because it was closed off, to help me get coffee. So they were just so kind. The facilities are gorgeous. It's really just a good place to study and to be. And then another thing also is they have the best wine and cheese nights, and we've met other Reuben members, and those people have become some of my closest friends here at Oxford.
Great, thank you, and also Tracy, is up to each individual how it is that they tackle assessment. So no judgment if you're someone who has to sort of work till and stay up for 24 hours or whatever it is, then it's good that you've got those facilities to do that. And then also, Tracy, if I could just ask you, maybe in the next over the next year, the remainder of your time on the MBA, is there any sort of plans or anything that you hope to sort of leverage or get involved with, either the Laidlaw sort of scholar network at Oxford or even sort of the wider community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the Laidlaw Scholarship just brings so many opportunities for women. And what I'm really excited about is the London Business School conference that we have upcoming in March. So that's going to be an opportunity for us to get together with Laidlaw scholars also from LBS. And I'm really excited to connect to them on a wider level. And honestly, my time at Oxford has just been like a dream in the last 3 months. And it's gone by so quickly. And I'm just so excited to like come back for the next like few terms and just really like soak up everything that Oxford has to offer. Um, like just being at Oxford, one is a dream, but two, being a Laidlaw scholar at Oxford just opens so many doors for you. So I'm just really excited to see what I can potentially do in the next year.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. So please, everyone, do submit. So we do have some time for questions for our panelists. I can see that someone has put a question. So what sort of support are given through the MBA program in terms of sort of mentor sort of meetups? So not sure if anyone who wants to sort of take that question in terms of some of the support that's, I think the person might be asking in terms of particularly being sort of a Laidlaw scholar, what support is provided. I do think that maybe we did touch on some of those, but if anyone can would like to sort of just take that question just to reiterate, and then maybe also other aspects of the MBA as well.
Sorry, Shruti, you can go if you want to do so.
I mean, I can share my experience, and I was fortunate enough to get support from both the Laidlaw and school communities. So I would say that in terms of mentorship, if you know what you're looking for, Oxford and Saeed is able to put you in a position where you know the nodes of information, so you understand, okay, whom to reach out to ask what you need to ask. For example, if there is someone within the Saeed community and I need to connect to them, I can ask either the careers team or Mandeep or one of my professors. And it's basically, Oxford is this very convoluted network, but information just like flows very organically through these nodes. So if you just want to know, okay, how to get somewhere, I would ask people around me, and they would then connect to someone, and someone would connect to someone, and I would ultimately get there. And right now, I would assume this is not making sense, but let me give you an example. So as a Laidlaw scholar and a school scholar, I was told that I have some funds that I can use for conferences, and Saeed also gives you some funds. So I was told that, okay, there is an Oxford delegation that goes to the COP conference every year. But since the program starts in September, I was already too late to apply for that. But I knew that I wanted to go for this conference. It's an expensive place to go. The hotels are all sold out, and I haven't applied for my visa yet. And probably all the Oxford badges have also gone out. But I used the Laidlaw connections. So I used my professors, I used the Oxford MBA program management, and I used some of the school mentors that I had to be like, okay, you know what, this is what I want to do, see how you can help me. So Professor Mariah connected me to one of her researchers. The researcher connected me to someone who was handing out the badges. So like little things worked out. I got some money from school, some money from Laidlaw, and essentially I was able to go to the conference within a month's time, right? Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that there are landmark opportunities for you out there in that year and beyond. These prestigious communities and tags that we have just open doors enough for us to then access the right people and ask the right questions. So you have as much mentorship as you need at Oxford side, as long as you go out and ask the right questions.
Great. Okay, thank you, Shruti. I think that answers that question. So I can see there's a couple of questions. As someone's mentioned about their A-level grades. So if they were bad, but they have an excellent GPA, but will bad A-level grades have a negative impact? I'd say no, absolutely not. So if you, in fact, we're looking at your undergraduate GPA. So no, that would not impact your application. Someone does ask, how were you able to connect to Oxford alumni for interview insights? So I'd say that our community is very sort of active. I'm sure there's opportunities to connect via LinkedIn. So in fact, I might be speaking for the panelists, but I'm sure that they'll be sort of open to connections. I think this is sort of the theme that we often hear sort of with our Laidlaw community. I think they like to give back. So yes, I think feel free to use your research, have a look on the websites. You can look at all of our Laidlaw scholars actually on the scholarship pages on our website. And then, this is a good question. Can you share any unexpected experiences, both positive and negative, that you've had as a Laidlaw scholar? That's a good question, actually. So in fact, maybe we can hear from everyone. I think it's important to be honest. So Soraya, should we come to you first?
I saw the question and I started to think hard about the negative experiences. Maybe let me talk about perhaps what I expected versus what I saw. And I think I was very particular about wanting to be built as a female leader. Like that was one of the things that attracted me to Laidlaw. And I know we're still in Michaelmas. I still have 2 terms to go, just so you know. So this is a very sort of biased, not haven't finished MBA kind of opinion. I have asked them a few times, are we having leadership workshops or conferences? And I'm told, well, not really. We have a couple of meetups coming up, like 2 of them, one at LBS, one, which is a great opportunity to meet the Laidlaw team, but also to meet other Laidlaw scholars. So I did thought there was going to be a lot of like skill building when it comes to leadership, but perhaps it's because the MBA built you for that anyway. So maybe Laidlaw doesn't feel the need to actually do a lot more, given that the MBA already does that for you. So I think for me at the start, it was a bit sort of underwhelming, not saying that we have a lot of programs that are building us up for leadership. But to their defense, the MBA is an incredibly busy program. We hardly have any time in our calendars. Even when the Laidlaw team schedules something, we struggle to make it sometimes. So I see why, they wouldn't put a lot of things in our calendar, because we're already sort of very busy. But yeah, at the start, I wondered. So I don't know if that helps, but I had to think hard about that one as well.
No, I appreciate it. That's right. That's a good approach. Thank you for answering that question. I'm not sure if anyone else has got anything that they would like to add to that. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question, which I think it was, this is a good question. It's sort of how important was being a Laidlaw scholar in your decision to choose Oxford? So, and I suppose actually, because of course we understand that you're applying to many other sort of MBA programs, and there are sort of some really good sort of scholarship opportunities as well. So yes, how did you sort of go about that decision sort of factor? So Tracy, in fact, if we can come to you.
Yeah, so for me, it was like Oxford or bust, Laidlaw or bust. So I I didn't apply to any other schools. I knew I wanted to go to Oxford, and I knew that I had to be a Laidlaw scholar to be able to go to Oxford, just due to like the financial background that I came from. And so I was just really happy that like it all sort of worked out, and how supportive Oxford MBA program is of women in general. Is it okay if I like throw in some stuff for other questions as well that I saw?
Yeah.
So for somebody mentioned A levels and kind of their grades and whether it would be balanced. So I just wanted to mention something like personally in my application, I there was a period of time in my undergrad where I didn't do so well. Like I had a personal emergency that I had to deal with. And so there's an opportunity for you to like explain that at there are two essays, right? And then there's a third part, at least when I applied, that says like, if you need to explain anything, you can. So I took that opportunity. You can even put it in your essay if you want, but to kind of explain like what happened, but more than that, just how you overcame it and how everything else is balanced. So I talked about like the awards that I got after and like the growth that I learned from it. So don't knock yourself out because you think like I have one thing that's like not good. Really, it's very holistic, as Mandeep has said.
Yes, I would say it is, and I know that sometimes it can be a very sort of typical maybe business school response when often people hear that it's holistic, but I'd say it is very holistic. You can certainly look to balance your profile. So
I know we're about to end, but I just wanted to add a little bit to what Tracy said. And from my experience of applying to the MBA, please don't be like us, people that just apply to Oxford. It doesn't make you competitive in the process or in choosing scholarships. Try and do a few. Also have a backup plan, because I remember, and this is me being like completely honest. I don't know if you're recording this, Mandy, but sorry.
It's being recorded, but it's okay.
Yeah, apply to a few because it's going to help you to negotiate better with the university when you're getting scholarships. You might not get like Laidlaw and other full scholarships are quite competitive. So you want to make sure that you have opportunities to apply for other scholarships. But also, finally, you want to make sure that you have an alternative plan, because they would also ask you what you're going to do if you don't get the scholarship. So make sure you have other ways to actually fund your MBA in case it doesn't come through. This is just a bit of reality check that I think I should do. So yeah. Thank
No,
you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all important sort of feedback to give.
Add to that, that was very helpful advice. I would say that you know, if you get scholarships from other places, let Oxford know. So this is a key negotiation advice that I offer people who reach out to me for help, because you're essentially through your application, etc., trying to demonstrate need and merit, right? And merit being the more important factor. So if you have validation from another source, let Oxford know. So to share a little snippet from my own story, I had applied to LBS. I got an acceptance. I also got about a £40,000 scholarship from there. And it was still not enough because LBS with living expenses, etc., costs about like £150,000 for about 2 years. So it was a lot of money still that I had to put in, and I couldn't afford that. So I reached out to Laidlaw's CEO, Susanna, and asked her that, hey, listen, I am in the running for Saeed's Laidlaw process. I'm also in the running for LBS's Laidlaw process, and I already have this scholarship from LBS. How can you help? And she basically said, okay, let me see what we can do. And so she checked within her sources at LBS and realized that, okay, you know what, they have given out the spots to people already. So I'm going to be basically expecting a rejection letter very soon. But that helped move the needle for her, because she was like, okay, these spots are gone, but you know what, if you get one at Saeed, let me see if I can do something else at LBS too, if in case some spot opens up because someone doesn't take it. So what I'm essentially saying is that if you have your merit demonstrated by an offer in some place, you can always use it with another school and vice versa. And ultimately, these foundations like Laidlaw are always there to help you. They want you, if you're a strong candidate, they want you in their roster one way or the other. So never shy away from asking help. That was one. And second, I would say that it's also important that you take out enough time for scholarship applications. I treated the Laidlaw Scholarship application as a one full application in parallel to my MBA application. So if I gave my MBA application, let's say 20 days, I gave the Laidlaw Scholarship application 20 days, I gave the School Scholarship application 20 days. So for me, it was a full 2-month process. Of course, you can overlap that, but all I'm trying to say is that the amount of time, effort, and mind space you invest in your mainstream MBA application, do that for Laidlaw as well. You owe it to yourself.
Okay, great, thank you. So I know that we're coming to the end, and I know like some have to have got a hard stop. So I know, Soraya, you've got a hard stop at 5:05. But thank you so much. I can see that there is a question that I think Tracy is typing an answer to, but in fact I just touch on this in terms of sort of mentioning sort of a transparent life story, and is that going to be seen as a bad impact or a bad impression? Absolutely not. And I'd say I think what's important, in fact, I think this has been touched on actually in the discussion, it's important to be sort of honest, be open, be authentic. Please look to tell your story. I think the MBA application and the scholarship application is going to be a very sort of it's going to be a very sort of reflective piece. If that's right, if you got your hand up, did you want to
Yeah,
say
I just wanted to mention that each time I meet the MBA director, she tells me how I made all of them cry on my Laidlaw call. And I don't like to mention it, but it did happen. It wasn't intentional. It was the first call of the day. I felt very sorry for them. Nobody should cry 9 a.m. in the morning when they have other interviews to do. But I'm just telling you that so you know that it doesn't matter how much you try to hide your story. If you're going to genuinely answer those questions and let those people see through you, they're going to get to you. The process is designed to bring out who you are, and you shouldn't hide it. The fact that you've made it through everything that you went through in life and you're here, you're applying to Oxford, you're trying to move forward despite everything you've been through, it just shows your resilience. And resilience is one of the things that gets you through the MBA. Trust me, it's an incredibly difficult journey. So it's a good quality to have. Don't hide your story. Whatever it is, they've probably seen that or worse, and they're not going to look at you in a certain way because of that. But thank you so much for having us, Mandip. And I have to drop off now.
Yeah.
Really great sharing a panel with you, Shruti and Tracy.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Soraya. And yes, so hopefully that's answered that question. And I can see that we're out of time now. We're sort of coming towards the end. So I think just to end with, actually, in terms of sort of with Shruti and Tracy, if there's anything that you'd like to add, any sort of final tips of advice or anything that you wish you had known when you were going for this process. So Tracy, if we hear from you first.
Absolutely. So one, don't count yourself out. Put in your application and put your best foot forward. Don't think that I maybe have XYZ, so they're not looking for B. There's no one profile of a Laidlaw scholar. We are all so different and so just unique that you should share your story. Two, be really authentic. I was super authentic in the story of me, who I am, my hardships, what I've struggled with. And I think it came off, I think they took it positively. So those are the two tips that I'm going to leave you with.
Thank you. What about you, Shruti?
I would say whenever in doubt, reach out to people, ask for help, right? It's been incredibly useful in my journey. And because I have been helped so much, I love to pay it forward. So if any of you have any questions or need support or just general feedback, advice on how to direct your path, just go to my LinkedIn, send me a request, and we'll schedule a 30-minute call and I'll help you out as much as I can.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, a big thank you to our panelists. I know Soraya had to drop off, but a big thank you to Soraya, Tracy, and Shruti. I really appreciate your insights, you being honest. I hope that's given everyone sort of a flavour on what to sort of expect with the process. So best of luck to you all as you start going through the process, and best of luck with your MBA applications and your scholarship applications. If you do have any sort of questions, feel free to reach out. And we will be recording the session. So the session has been recorded, so we will send that. So a big thank you and goodbye.